Every penny wrongly taken from the public purse is money that would otherwise help countless people who need support. People like Sarah Chapman, a young mum from the Midlands.
I am Isla. I used to feel like the loneliest girl in the world. When reading, I could read about 5 words and then they go all blurry.
These children are giving talk about their struggles with dyslexia, something that with the right support they're managing. But if that condition isn't diagnosed, your school days can be some of the most difficult times of your life.
I just had a really, really awful time, and I had no confidence and self-esteem, and my teacher wasn't very helpful with anything, and I just really, really struggled.
Back in the early 90s, young Sarah Chapman was finding primary school challenging.
When I actually came to learn to read, I felt like I was hitting a brick wall, and I didn't understand why I wasn't learning. I used to sit by the window, so when it comes to bright light, my eyes are really, really sensitive to sunlight, and I used to get sleepy, so I was lazy.
But a problem with Sarah's eyes wasn't the only issue.
My long-term memory is great, but my short-term memory, I need to be taught in a certain way, and if someone's firing information at me, it's just not going to go in.
School began to be a real battle, with no one really getting to the bottom of why Sarah was struggling.
They just said that I didn't try hard enough. I needed to try harder. I remember my dad was called in weekly almost to talk about the standard of my work, and I knew that I was the only one still writing in pencil when everyone else was writing in pens.
As Sarah's problems mounted, so did her frustration.
I'd basically go out of my way to avoid being put in a situation where I could be humiliated. So if it meant answering back and getting thrown out of the class, then that's what I'd do. I literally spent most of my school time in the corridor. I didn't get any help.
In 1995, the time came to move on to secondary school.
I was really looking forward to having another chance, but I think as soon as I got there and started in lessons, I realised that it wasn't going to be a new start at all. It was just the same old trouble, different place.
Just as in primary school, no one looked for underlying causes to her behaviour.
I don't think anyone approached me. I've never even heard the term dyslexia until I was an adult. I didn't know what it was.
Faced with a lack of understanding, Sarah's behaviour became unmanageable.
But I have a pile an inch thick of suspension letters, expulsion. And actually in year 8 I was removed from all lessons. And when I ate my dinner, I'd have to go and sit in the middle of the stage in front of everybody and eat my food. The first time they tried to make me do it, I literally picked up my tray and threw it across the room and ran out of school.
Labelled a bad child, it only made her sense of isolation worse.
I used to look at people and, especially the girls, because I couldn't understand how come they have a group of friends, why aren't I able to have that? I alienated people because of my behaviour, so I know it was my own fault.
By the time her exams loomed, Sarah had been all but written off by her school.
I was told that it was a waste of paper, me sitting my exams. I wasn't expecting to pass any of my exams. I was told that I'd be a failure for my whole life, so I think they gave up on me, and I gave up on myself.
By law, Sarah still had to sit her GCSEs, but it was a pitiless experience.
I sat there and literally, I literally sat there and sobbed through most of my exam. I couldn't work, and especially in English. There was 2 questions that you had to answer, but they were both essays, and I was really, really struggling. And by the time everyone else was finishing, I was still just sat there on the first paragraph.
Age 16, she left school with barely any qualifications.
They should have noticed that something wasn't right, and I've spent my whole life feeling like I was a failure because of how... Sorry.
For almost a decade, Sarah travelled, and then in 2008, aged 26 and pregnant, she headed to her then boyfriend's hometown, Calverton in Nottinghamshire.
I didn't know anybody, and I just walked past this place. I'd never even really noticed it before, and I saw a sign advertising for IT courses, so I went in because I knew that I was pregnant and I had no skills. I had no chance of getting a decent job and I didn't want to be sat on benefit.
Sarah's meeting with Sue Stone, learning manager at the Core Centre in Calverton Town Centre, which runs educational courses for adults, would mark a turning point in her life. It's the first time Sarah's been back in years.
Hello. Hello, how are you?
Long time no see.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm fine. Yeah, come on, let's go.
Sarah came to us in her 20s. She'd not got any stability in her life. She got very low self-esteem, she got no self-belief, and her confidence was very low. I think she realised herself she'd got to be a more responsible adult as she'd got a child coming, and she wanted to be a good parent.
Sarah began taking courses in everything from IT to first aid.
I literally worked my way through every single course that they did. I worked full time, I never missed a day, and I really, really enjoyed every moment of being there.
But it wasn't just the courses on offer that made such a difference to Sarah. The teaching at the Core Centre was a world away from what she'd had at school.
They treated me like an adult, like they explained things to me, and even though actually at that point I still didn't know that I was dyslexic, I just worked really hard and I had that support around me and they encouraged me to keep going.
As she succeeded in all these courses, she gained self-respect. She realised she could do them, so that just bolstered her self-confidence and she bloomed.
Proud of Sarah's achievements, Sue even nominated her for an Adult Learners Award, which she won.
What they wrote about me was just absolutely amazing, that I'd made that much of an impression on somebody. I tell them very, very, very often how much they did for me.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, so
Take care of yourself.
yeah, lovely to see you. Keep in touch. Let us know what's happening.
Stay out of trouble.
After 8 months under the Core Centre's wing, now mum to a baby girl, Sarah's newfound confidence saw her continue with her studies at college.
I went from the Core Centre and actually applied to college to do an Access to Higher Education teaching diploma, and it was knowing that actually I'm not stupid, I can do this and I can do it well. That's what spurred me on even further, and I actually surprisingly applied to go to university.
With the college's support and backing in 2010, Sarah received a letter from Derby University that she never thought she'd see.
When it actually came through as accepted, I couldn't believe it. I cried. I was so happy. I never ever thought that I was intelligent enough to go to university and get a degree.
But despite being offered a place, Sarah was still plagued with the difficulties she'd experienced all her life, having no idea what was the cause.
Again, and I was struggling to retain the information. I researched it basically and looked up, and dyslexia, this word kept popping up at me. Although I wasn't formally assessed, that's when I actually started to click that I was dyslexic.
Sarah asked for a formal dyslexia assessment from the university, and finally, later that year, received some news that made everything about her childhood clear.
I was 27 when I found out I was dyslexic. So it was quite a shock, and I went through all mix of emotions. I was relieved because I finally, there was a reason. It wasn't because I was stupid, there was a reason. And then I went through a stage of feeling quite angry towards my teacher and towards my parents, especially for not picking it up.
Dee Cornt, Chief Executive of the Dyslexia Association, knows that Sarah's story is quite typical.
The research tells us that at least 10% of the population are thought to be dyslexic, so we're talking about 6 million people in the UK.
Dee's helped many of those diagnosed learn how to manage their condition.
There is no cure for dyslexia. If you're born dyslexic, you'll die dyslexic. But it's about developing strategies to help you overcome the things that you might have difficulty with. So it doesn't have to be a problem in your life if you're helped to develop those strategies.
Today, Sarah's getting the help she needs. Happily married with another child, she's still studying at university. And she now receives a disabled student's allowance to help her with her learning.
As a student, you have a DSA loan, so I get assistive technology, and I have a one-to-one support tutor who helps me because I struggle with indexes in the libraries. If you need help to find journals, they'll help you.
Her grant also pays for her glasses, which have special purple lenses. They help her to read on white paper, increasing her reading ability by up to 40%. With her dyslexia now well under control, Sarah's a lot happier.
There's so many opportunities for you to be able to follow your passion. I organised a huge conference in January, which was attended by 400 people from all over the UK, and it was about promoting best practice and actually all of the amazing creative strengths that people with dyslexia can bring to the workforce.
And 3 years on from her diagnosis, alongside studying, Sarah works to help others with the condition to get the most from their lives.
I spend most of my time raising awareness of dyslexia and helping other people because I don't want people to suffer how I suffered as a child.
Sarah mentors children and adults to make sure they don't suffer the way she did. Today, she's watching a school assembly given by a group of pupils with dyslexia.
Welcome to our presentation. I used to struggle so much, and I used to wish I was better at English, and I used to dread doing spelling tests. I always forget how to spell tricky words. I feel better now because I'm improving, and that is because I understand why I struggle.
We want you to know what life is like in our shoes. We don't have a disability, we just do things differently.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. I can't actually speak because that's really, really lovely and it'll make me cry. What the children just did to stand up there like that was absolutely incredible, and they should be so proud, like I'm proud of them for doing it. How did that feel?
Good.
Did you enjoy it? I think you did a really, really good job.
Oh, wow.
Work hard. Don't give up.
You won't, will you?
And for anyone who's struggling with education, Sarah's got a very simple message.
I'd say to anyone that's had a similar experience to me to don't give up just yet. It may not have been great the first time, but it doesn't mean that you can't go back and do it again and be where you should have been. You know, you're not stupid, you can do it, you just need to go about it a different way.